Beyond the Gates spoilers reveal that Ted and Shanice's shockingly fast wedding isn't the fairy tale whirlwind romance everyone in Fairmont Crest believes it to be, because behind the rushed vows, borrowed smiles, and last-minute ceremony lie three explosive secrets that could detonate their marriage before the ink on the certificate even dries. And the first secret begins with the real reason Ted pushed for the wedding date so aggressively. Far from being driven by love alone, Ted is hiding a ticking clock tied to a devastating medical diagnosis he received weeks earlier, a diagnosis he's told absolutely no one about, not even Shanice, and the symptoms have already begun surfacing in subtle ways viewers may have missed, from his sudden dizzy spells to his emotional volatility. And Ted's belief that marrying Shanice now will ensure she's legally protected and provided for if his health takes a turn explains his desperation, his impulsiveness, and the haunting looks he gives her when she isn't watching. But the second secret threatens to paint the entire wedding as a strategic move rather than a romantic one, because Shanice herself is harboring a secret that connects directly to Ted's past and could reframe their love story as something far more complicated. Sources confirm that Shanice discovered weeks before the proposal that Ted is being investigated in connection to a financial scandal involving a Shell charity fund that vanished years ago, a scandal that once destroyed a powerful family and left one woman pregnant and abandoned, and Shanice knows this because she has been quietly communicating with that woman, whose identity will soon rock the show. And while Shanice does love Ted, her decision to marry him quickly was influenced by a calculated belief that becoming his wife would give her legal standing, access, and leverage if the truth comes out, placing her in the impossible position of being both protector and potential betrayer. And the third secret, the most dangerous of all, ties the wedding night itself to a bombshell revelation that could end everything, because Ted and Shanice are unknowingly bound together by a secret that predates their relationship entirely. Ted may be the biological father of the child Shanice lost years ago under mysterious circumstances, a tragedy she believes was the result of a random medical complication but which medical records now suggest involved a rare genetic marker Ted carries, meaning their love story could be rooted in a shared loss neither of them fully understands yet. And as the wedding reception unfolds with champagne, forced laughter, and uneasy glances from guests who sense something is off, the camera lingers on three moments that signal the coming storm. Ted clutching his chest alone in the hallway, Shanice receiving a text message that reads, "You married him before knowing the whole truth," and a sealed envelope marked urgent paternity and medical results sitting unopened in their suite, leaving viewers to wonder whether this rushed wedding was an act of destiny, denial, or desperation, and whether Ted and Shanice's marriage will survive the secrets it was built on, or collapse under the weight of truths that refuse to stay buried beyond the gates. Beyond the Gates spoilers tease that the aftermath of Ted and Shanice's lightning-fast wedding spirals almost immediately into chaos as the cracks begin to show before the honeymoon phase can even begin, because the very next morning, Shanice wakes to find Ted missing from their hotel suite, his phone left behind and buzzing nonstop with missed calls from an unknown number later revealed to belong to the specialist who delivered Ted's original diagnosis. And when Shanice finally tracks him down at the hospital, she overhears a chilling conversation confirming that Ted's condition is not only real but far more advanced than he let on, forcing Shanice into a spiral of guilt for marrying him under half-truths while simultaneously hiding her own buried agenda. And as if that weren't explosive enough, the second secret detonates publicly when a surprise guest from Ted's past crashes the post-wedding brunch, Maribel, the woman Shanice has secretly been communicating with, who drops a quiet but lethal bomb by congratulating Shanice on becoming the wife of a man who's been running from his consequences for 20 years. A comment that sends Ted into a barely controlled panic and leaves Shanice frozen, realizing the woman she thought she was helping is now ready to burn everything down. And as Maribel's presence ripples through the Dupree family and raises suspicions among Nicole, Danny, and Jacob, Ted is forced to confront the possibility that the charity scandal he buried years ago is about to resurface with criminal implications that could strip him of everything, including Shanice. While the third secret tightens its grip in devastating fashion when Shanice finally opens the sealed medical envelope left in their suite, discovering test results that confirm a genetic match so precise it can no longer be dismissed as coincidence, leading Shanice to relive the trauma of her pregnancy loss through a horrifying new lens that suggests her child may not have died naturally after all, but instead suffered complications tied directly to Ted's DNA. A revelation that reframes every tender moment between them as tragically ironic and potentially unforgivable, and as Shanice grapples with whether to confront Ted or protect him yet again, the show layers in mounting tension through whispered conversations, intercepted emails, and ominous flashbacks that hint someone else knows the full truth and is manipulating events from the shadows, culminating in a jaw-dropping cliffhanger where Ted collapses during a heated argument with Shanice and mutters the words, "I married you to save you," just before losing consciousness, leaving viewers questioning whether this rushed wedding was a shield against fate, a selfish act of love, or the first irreversible mistake in a union doomed by secrets that refuse to stay buried, proving that beyond the gates of Fairmont Crest, no marriage is ever just about love. It's about survival, sacrifice, and the devastating cost of secrets kept too long. Beyond the gates, spoilers promise that Ted's sudden collapse becomes the moment everything shifts from whispered suspicion to irreversible fallout, because as paramedics rush him out and Shanice clings to his hand in terror, a single sentence slips from his lips: "The baby was mine." And while Shanice convinces herself it was delirium brought on by pain and medication, the seed of truth has already been planted, sending her spiraling through memories she once buried, memories that now resurface alongside mounting evidence that their lives have been intertwined far longer than either of them ever realized. And as Ted undergoes emergency testing, doctors confirm that his condition is genetic, raising horrifying implications not just for his future but for Shanice's past, forcing her to confront the possibility that the tragedy she survived years ago was never random at all. While the second secret metastasizes when financial investigators arrive at the hospital with a subpoena bearing Ted's name, exposing the fact that his rushed wedding also created legal protections he desperately needed, protections that Shanice now realizes may have been the real motivation behind his urgency, leaving her to question whether she married a man out of love, or became a shield in a war she never agreed to fight. And as Maribel's presence grows more menacing, revealing she is proof linking Ted directly to the missing charity funds and to the silencing of multiple witnesses, Shanice is forced into an impossible choice between loyalty and justice, especially when Maribel reveals that Shanice was never just a coincidence in Ted's life, but someone he sought out years later out of guilt, regret, and unfinished business, turning their romance into a calculated second chance masquerading as destiny. While the third secret detonates with devastating precision when DNA results confirm that Ted was indeed the biological father of Shanice's lost child, shattering the foundation of their marriage and reframing their vows as tragically cruel irony. And just when Shanice prepares to confront Ted with the truth, she discovers that someone else has beaten her to it, Nicole, who confronts Ted in his hospital room with the same file, demanding to know how many lives he's destroyed in the name of survival, triggering a breakdown that exposes Ted's deepest fear, that marrying Shanice wasn't just about love or protection, but about redemption he knew he didn't deserve. And as the week closes, Shanice stands alone in their wedding suite, still in possession of the ring she no longer knows whether to wear, staring at a final message on Ted's phone that reads, "If she finds out everything, it's over," leaving viewers breathless and questioning whether this marriage was doomed from the moment it began, or whether the truth, once fully revealed, will finally set them both free beyond the gates. Beyond the gates, spoilers escalate when Shanice finally confronts Ted after his recovery stabilizes, and instead of denial, she's met with a devastating confession that confirms her worst fears, because Ted admits he knew years ago there was a possibility he was the father of her child but convinced himself the truth died with the loss, revealing that his decision to pursue Shanice again wasn't accidental but driven by unresolved guilt that slowly transformed into genuine love. A revelation that fractures Shanice emotionally as she realizes the man she married both loved her and robbed her of informed choice. And The situation grows even more volatile when Shanice learns the wedding has legally bound her to Ted's looming financial scandal, making her a potential target of the investigation and putting her career, reputation, and freedom at risk, while the second secret explodes outward as Maribel leaks documents to the press, triggering a media frenzy that paints Ted as a predator who used marriage as a shield and Shanice as either a victim or a co-conspirator, forcing her into the public eyewear. Every tear is scrutinized and every silence interpreted as guilt, and as the Dupree family fractures under the pressure, with Danny urging Shanice to run, Nicole demanding the full truth, and Jacob quietly uncovering evidence that suggests someone higher up helped Ted bury the original charity scandal. The third secret takes its most haunting turn yet when Shanice uncovers hospital records revealing her pregnancy loss may have been hastened by a medical decision made without her full consent. A decision linked to a doctor Ted once paid off to protect his future, sending Shanice into a rage fueled by grief, betrayal, and the realization that her pain was collateral damage in a man's attempt to survive, and just when it seems the marriage cannot endure another blow, Ted makes a reckless move by confessing publicly during a press conference meant to clear Shanice's name, admitting he manipulated timelines, finances, and emotions to keep his past from destroying them both. A confession that saves Shanice legally, but destroys him socially and professionally, leaving Shanice to watch as the man she married becomes a pariah overnight. And the final gut punch lands when Shanice visits Ted alone after the fallout and he quietly removes his wedding ring, telling her he married her because he loved her but stayed silent because he was afraid the truth would make her hate him more than she already might, leaving Shanice standing at the crossroads between vengeance and forgiveness, knowing that beyond the gates of Fairmont Crest, love doesn't erase damage. It only forces you to decide whether the wreckage is something you can live with. Beyond the Gates spoilers reveal that Ted's public confession may have saved Shanice from prosecution, but it unleashes a far more personal reckoning when the truth finally settles into the quiet spaces between them, because in the days that follow the press conference, Shanice begins to unravel not in tears but in silence, avoiding Ted, removing every trace of the wedding from their shared space, and forcing him to confront the reality that redemption does not guarantee forgiveness, while the fourth, previously hidden layer of the wedding's urgency comes to light when Jacob uncovers evidence that Ted's condition has a sharply limited treatment window, meaning Ted believed he had mere months, not years, when he proposed, reframing the wedding not just as an act of desperation but as a farewell disguised as a beginning. And this revelation fractures the Dupree family as opinions split between those who see Ted as a tragic figure racing against time and those who believe his suffering does not absolve the damage he caused, especially when Maribel resurfaces with one final blow by revealing she was prepared to expose everything on the wedding day itself, but delayed after receiving an anonymous message warning her that another life is at stake. A message Shanice later traces back to Ted, confirming he was still manipulating outcomes even as he claimed to surrender the truth, and the emotional pressure peaks when Shanice is summoned to testify before investigators and is forced to recount her pregnancy loss in clinical detail, triggering flashbacks that finally shatter her composure and make it clear that the marriage, rushed or not, has reopened wounds she never consented to relive. While Ted watches from the gallery knowing his silence created this moment, and in a haunting turn, doctors later inform Shanice that the same genetic marker tied to Ted's illness could affect her future fertility, meaning the life she imagined after the wedding may never exist, deepening her sense that the marriage stole more from her than it gave. And yet, in the midst of devastation, the show delivers its most conflicted twist when Shanice discovers Ted quietly established a trust in her name long before the wedding, before the investigation, before the collapse, suggesting that somewhere between guilt and fear, his love was real, leaving Shanice facing an impossible truth, that Ted is neither villain nor victim but a man whose love arrived wrapped in lies. And as the season edges toward its climax, Shanice stands alone at Fairmont Crest's gates holding annulment papers she hasn't signed, while Ted waits on the other side, unsure whether the marriage that began in secrecy will end in mercy, punishment, or a devastating act of forgiveness that could cost Shanice everything she has left beyond. The Gates spoilers tease that the annulment papers become the silent third presence in every room Shanice enters, untouched yet screaming with consequence, as Ted's health begins to deteriorate faster than anyone anticipated, forcing Shanice to confront the unbearable truth that time, not just truth, may be the real villain of their marriage. And as Ted begins experimental treatment that could either save his life or shorten it dramatically, Shanice is thrust into the role of wife in name only, showing up for medical decisions while emotionally locked behind walls built from betrayal, grief, and unanswered questions, and the tension explodes when a confidential hospital file goes missing, later revealed to have been stolen by someone within the Dupree circle, exposing a fifth secret tied directly to the wedding. Ted wasn't the only one who wanted the marriage rushed, because evidence suggests someone else benefited from Shanice becoming Ted's legal next of kin, and suspicion ricochets between Nicole, Jacob, and even Danny, each harboring motives tied to inheritance clauses, medical authority, and buried loyalties, while Shanice is left to wonder whether she was ever the bride, or merely the key, and the emotional stakes skyrocket when Maribel is found unconscious after a hit-and-run, clutching a flash drive containing files labeled Wedding Timeline, suggesting that the ceremony itself may have interfered with a pending arrest warrant Ted was never supposed to outrun, raising the horrifying possibility that the wedding altered the course of justice, and as guilt threatens to crush her, Shanice finally confronts Ted in a raw, unfiltered moment where she admits she doesn't know if she married him out of love, fear, or unfinished grief for the child they lost, and Ted, barely holding on, confesses one last truth he never planned to reveal, that he delayed telling her about the paternity results because he believed if she knew, she would leave before he could feel like a family even once, a confession that devastates Shanice not because it's cruel but because it's heartbreakingly human, and the season barrels toward a breathtaking cliffhanger when Ted collapses again at Fairmont Crest's gates just as Shanice tears up the annulment papers, only for investigators to arrive moments later with a warrant bearing her name as well as his, leaving Shanice frozen between love and law, knowing that their rushed wedding may have saved Ted's heart for a moment but could now cost them both their freedom, proving once and for all that beyond the gates, love doesn't just change lives, it rewrites destinies, and not everyone survives the edit. Beyond a Gate spoilers reveal that after the investigators deliver the shocking warrant naming both Ted and Shanice, the Dupree estate erupts into chaos as family, friends, and enemies alike descend, each with agendas that intersect painfully with the wedding's hidden truths, and Shanice, reeling from the near-constant emotional assault, begins piecing together a sixth secret that shakes her to the core. The officiant who rushed the ceremony may have been bribed or coerced into ensuring no legal delays occurred, meaning the very foundation of their marriage could be invalid. Yet even this revelation pales next to the seventh secret, where Maribel, recovering but vengeful, leaks recordings proving that Ted manipulated multiple witnesses to secure the rapid wedding, not only to protect his medical and financial secrets but also to prevent someone, later revealed as a powerful family ally, from revealing a hidden inheritance clause tied to Shanice, whose family wealth Ted's enemies hope to intercept. And as Shanice navigates this labyrinth of betrayal, guilt, and legal peril, she discovers that her lost child's medical records were tampered with to align with Ted's narrative, confirming that the miscarriage may have been accelerated, not naturally, adding a level of horror to the wedding she can't escape. While Ted, now weakened by his condition and the stress of investigation, pleads with Shanice to stay, claiming that his love, flawed and desperate as it is, has been the one constant amid decades of lies, and as the press camp outside Fairmont Crest grows louder, recording every tear, glance, and whispered conversation, the eighth secret is revealed in the most horrifying way. Someone within Shanice's own circle, someone she trusted implicitly, has been feeding information to Maribel, ensuring that every move she makes after the wedding is monitored, manipulated, and weaponized, making her question every decision, every expression of care, and even the authenticity of her own love for Ted. And in the season's penultimate moments, with the courtroom looming, Ted collapsing from exhaustion, Maribel hinting at a final revelation that could erase both their futures, and Shanice standing at the gates holding the annulment papers she cannot bring herself to sign. The show leaves viewers with one gut-wrenching truth. Their rushed wedding was never just a marriage. It was a spark that lit decades of secrets, lies, and betrayals. And beyond the gates of Fairmont Crest, no union, no matter how impulsive or passionate, can survive the full weight of a past that refuses to remain buried.